We have had another national holiday and another complete and total faux pas disaster from the Trump administration. This was Vice President Mike Pence, who you might recall refers to his mom as mother and won't go places without a chaperone if he's with women other than his wife. Mike Pence, our buddy, likened Donald Trump to Martin Luther King Jr. in an interview on television the day before Martin Luther King Day 2019. Quick note, we did do a new show on Martin Luther King Day this year. People very, very angry when we don't. And we did it because the holiday schedule at the end of the year ended up with a bunch of days off. We felt, let's do a show because we've been off a lot. So I will tell you that in 2020, we probably won't be doing a show on Martin Luther King Day. But back to our story. Mike Pence interviewed on CBS's Face the Nation. He's pressed about the latest Trump proposal to end the government shutdown with funding for the border wall. And Pence, out of nowhere, comes in and compares or likens Donald Trump to Martin Luther King, surprising not just everybody on the set, but a majority of the country and the world as well. That's not really a comparison most people would think to make. But alas, here is Mike Pence making it.
Bring together the Democrats' priorities to accomplish that. That's what the American people expect us to do. And honestly, the hearts and minds of the American people today are thinking a lot about it being the weekend where we remember the life and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. King was, "Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy." You think of how he changed America. He inspired us to change through the legislative process to become a more perfect union. That's exactly what President Trump is calling on the Congress to do. Come to the table in a spirit of good faith.
What's particularly infuriating to me about all of these right wingers now acting like Martin Luther King was just the best and Trump's like him and we're remembering Martin Luther King, that a lot of them would have hated Martin Luther King if they had been around at the same time. There's just no question about that. And to Pence's comment, I guess it's true in the sense that Martin Luther King inspired people to change for the better, and Donald Trump has inspired people to change for the worse by galvanizing and activating the white nationalists and the white supremacists and the alt-right and all these horrible elements of society. This is the second man in line for the presidency, and he's at least claiming off of a quote he read off of a piece of paper that was off to his left there at least, that he believes Donald Trump is like Martin Luther King. And the comparison could just not be more ridiculous. A man who fought racism compared to a man who has reinvigorated more racism than any recent president, I guess other than Obama, merely by virtue of being black, which really did agitate the racists, but that's sort of a different story. And I don't know what's more outrageous, Pence saying that Trump is like Martin Luther King, or Trump saying that he believes himself to be sort of like Abraham Lincoln. Both are crazy. And in the interests of trying to find some silver lining here or some other way that maybe this could be true, I sort of found one, Pat, which is that Martin Luther King inspired people to make changes to improve this country. It's possible that by being president, Donald Trump will inspire people to not only vote him out, but also to make sure that nothing like this atrocity of a presidency ever happens again. And maybe that would be the one way that both could have inspired positive change.
Well, that's certainly a stretch, but less of a stretch than Mike Pence's example was. I hate when Republicans go on and on about how Martin Luther King would be a Republican if he was living today. Like, the guy died 50 years ago. We were in such a different political time then. It's really hard to say what his politics would be like. But given the fact that Martin Luther King praised democratic socialism on many accounts, I think he would have more a lot in line with, say, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders than he would with Donald Trump and Mike Pence.
Yeah, it's very hard to imagine that in 2019, Martin Luther King Jr. says, Trump, Pence, that's who I'm voting for. Extraordinarily difficult to imagine that. And seriously, do you think that this is delusion? Do you think this is compulsive lying? Is it trolling? Is it just being bad people or trying to come up with interesting things to say on TV? I really don't know which it is. It might just be malignant ignorance in the end.
He's just trying to be a savvy politician, tie in the holiday with his agenda at the moment. That's all Mike Pence is trying to do here.
would have been much more credible feeling if he didn't have to look down at that piece of paper to read the quote. But I guess nobody's perfect, right?